by the media. Really. Here's how he tried to explain it on Fox News last night.
I was certainly skeptical of Donald Trump in 2016, but President Trump was a great president, and he changed my mind. I think he changed the minds of a lot of Americans because, again, he delivered that peace and prosperity. If you go back to what I thought in 2016, another thing that was going on, Sean, is I bought into the media's lies and distortions. I bought into this idea that somehow he was going to be so different, a terrible threat to democracy. It was a joke.
And what are voters to make of someone so susceptible to TV? An Earth 2 answer from an Earth 2 candidate encapsulating everything you need to know about who J.D. Vance is now and where the MAGA movement is heading as well. Liz Cheney puts it like this, quote, J.D. Vance has pledged that he would do what Mike Pence would not do, overturn an election and illegally seize power. He says the president can ignore the rulings of our courts. He would capitulate to Russia and sacrifice the freedom of our allies in Ukraine. The Trump GOP is no longer the party of Lincoln, Reagan, or the Constitution. If this new GOP's governing agenda is the 900-plus pages that make up Project 2025, filled with calls to purge the civil service, turn the justice system into the president's personal police and retribution force, enact a hard-right agenda on LGBTQ+ rights and abortion, then J.D. Vance is its leading evangelist. In a profile of Vance in Politico, Steve Bannon says that he is, quote, at the nerve center of this movement. Politico adding this, quote, Bannon even suggested that Vance could become the St. Paul to Trump's Jesus, the zealous convert who spreads the gospel of Trumpism further than Trump himself ever could, end quote. And here's how the president of the Heritage Foundation reacted to news that Vance had been chosen to be the Republican nominee for vice president.
Okay. We have confirmed news that Senator Vance is the vice presidential running mate. You will see a broad smile on my face because you may know that we're good friends. I will offer two comments about that. The first is the entire list of names considered are great men and women, truly, truly, all of them friends of Heritage. There, among them, though, was someone that privately we were really rooting for, and he's just been named the running mate.
So the guy that Heritage was, in their own words, really rooting for, Trump went with that guy. The Republican vice presidential candidate's transformation from hard Trump critic to a hard-right authoritarian culture warrior, and what it says about the future of the GOP and the future of this country, should Trump and Vance prevail, is where we begin today with some of our most favorite reporters and friends. In Milwaukee, at the RNC, NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard is back with us. Also joining us, MSNBC political analyst, Democratic strategist Cornell Belcher is here. With us at the table, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, president of the National Action Network, the Reverend Al Sharpton, is with us. Also joining us, former RNC spokesman, host of the Bulwark podcast, MSNBC political analyst Tim Miller's here. Rev, Jesus has been invoked. I'll go to you first.
Well, I think that if not directly, it borders on being sacrilegious. I mean,
Borders.
I'm trying to be nice. It's blasphemous, really, to say that Trump was Jesus and J.D. Vance was Paul is absolutely an insult to everybody that believes in the Bible. Let's start there. But to look at the fact that Heritage were the ones that sponsored and authored Project 2025, that Trump claims he knows nothing about, had nothing to do with it, but he chooses their candidate to be the vice president. I think the real headline today is that Heritage has admitted this is their candidate. He's the one they wanted. They did the 900 pages that would really undo the democratic process in this country, and they have their candidate as the vice presidential candidate for the this cycle. And the fact that Trump, with all of his denying he knew anything, he accepted their candidate. And I think that is something we should not run away from too quickly.
Tim.
Yeah, I guess I want to build on that. I could do 2 hours on the political of J.D. Vance and his hypocrisy and all his quotes.
We've got exactly that much time.
Yeah, we could do it all. But I think the most important thing to think about is J.D. Vance as governing partner of Donald Trump, because it is extremely alarming. It's the most alarming person that he could have chosen on the short list of people that were in the mix. J.D. Vance is not going to be brakes on Donald Trump in the Oval Office, God forbid if he gets in there on any of his crazy ideas. A lot of times people that tried to be brakes, last time were just bowled over, but still a brake is better than a gas pedal. J.D. Vance went along with all of Donald Trump's most ostentatious, anti-conservative, just common sense policies and thoughts, the vaccine denialism, full bore on January 6th, full bore on election denialism, full bore on blaming Joe Biden for the Putin invasion of Ukraine and siding with Putin. So if you just think about the domestic policies when it comes to the border and Donald Trump's heinous plans there, J.D. Vance will be fully on board with all of that across a wide range of issues. All of the anti-democracy elements, J.D. Vance is going to be somebody that is his wingman and says yes to the things that he wants to do that flout in the face of the rule of law. And I think that's extremely scary.
One of the stories that broke Saturday before the assassination attempt on Donald Trump is the kind of story that might have shaped a week of conversations, right? It was a Jim Rutenberg, Nick Corsiniti story, Von Hilliard, about the plan to overturn the 2024 election and make sure that it cannot be certified. And I know you were there with Mike Pence when he was cast in this role 8 years ago. This is, for Donald Trump, another casting. There's no evidence that's come out that it's something much different than that. I wonder, in your view, the importance of what Liz Cheney points out about J.D. Vance, that on this one thing, this one line, this single line that we ever found out about, there may have been others, but none that we ever found out about, single line that Mike Pence wouldn't cross in service of Donald Trump was overturning the 2020 election. This is a line J.D. Vance would barrel through.
And J.D. Vance, I think, was interestingly asked the same question by Sean Hannity last night that Mike Pence was asked 8 years ago, which I talked about on your show yesterday. And that was, on the day that they were selected, how would you, in a moment in which you disagree with Donald Trump, how would you handle that? And Mike Pence 8 years ago responded that he'd go and share his disagreements with the president behind closed doors, but then walk out shoulder to shoulder and stand by the president in solidarity. And Mike Pence did that every single day until January 6, 2021. J.D. Vance last night, he said that he'd go behind closed doors and he'd discuss it with the president. He stopped short of going further than that. But I think that that is where the question comes as to, for 4 years, how would J.D. Vance ultimately maneuver his way through in that capacity as being the right hand of Donald Trump? And when you were to get to potentially 4 years from now and the act of certifying in the election, of course, it's a serious question here. And I think that, for J.D. Vance, I think much like Donald Trump takes credit for saving Mike Pence from, as Donald Trump liked to say, Mike Pence was going to lose his re-election bid for Indiana governor back in the day if it weren't for him picking him as VP. You hear the same thing from Donald Trump now. And J.D. Vance gives him that credit, that in 2022, when he ran for the U.S. Senate in a crowded Republican primary in Ohio, he helped win him the seat with that endorsement, and J.D. Vance gives him the credit. And then he helped him win the general election. And so in a lot of ways, Donald Trump takes credit for J.D. Vance being politically where he is right now. And the question is, just how far could J.D. Vance go to ultimately ensuring that Donald Trump is able to execute exactly what the vision is, or the extent to exactly how much do they share the same vision? Because I think that, as Tim was just outlining, in a lot of ways, J.D. Vance publicly is right alongside in terms of policy, domestic and foreign policy, with the president's position, with the former president's positions.
Cornell, there is palpable fear in the political climate. It's just not an elite conversation. The voters have palpable fear. It's where all of their animosity, or a lot of the animosity, comes from in any conversations about the state of the race. The palpable fear when you put J.D. Vance, who can operationalize the darkest elements of Project 2025, goes up exponentially. Let me show you J.D. Vance in his own words on his policy instincts.
I think that what Trump should do, like if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, replace them with our people. And when the courts, because you will get taken to court, and then when the courts stop you, stand before the country like Andrew Jackson did and say the Chief Justice has made his ruling, now let him enforce it. Because this is, I think, a constitutional level crisis.
The rhetoric and the touchstones ideologically of J.D. Vance, in his own words? Cornell.
You know, I'm just going to put on my sort of this campaign hat here, Nicolle, and try to call balls and strikes, right? I'm not trying to be partisan here at all. If you're Donald Trump, you know, I understand why you choose J.D. Vance, because he is going to back your coup attempt. But if you're if you're looking at sort of the Republicans Party more broadly, problems more broadly, and I know we've been talking about nonstop the problems of Democrats, but the last couple of elections, Democrats have actually gotten more voters than Republicans, and this current president did win a majority, and it's been a long time since a Republican has won a majority. And if you look at the middle of the electorate, where Republicans, Donald Trump certainly needs to do better, right? You look at that suburban mom in the suburbs of Philadelphia who's been moving solidly away, been moving away from Republicans, and she sits around that table, you know, and she thinks about her bills, and she thinks about her, you know, she's got to send her daughter to college and how she pays for that, and she may be, and she's fearful that she's going into a world where her daughter may have less rights and agency over her own body than she does. How does this help Donald Trump grow his support? How does it help Republicans move out and capture more moderate voters? And the last piece on this, Nicolle, you know, maybe I'm wrong on this, but America's not getting whiter. So every couple of years, we're going to have an electorate that's probably 2 or 3 points browner than the last electorate, and moving forward and onward. And I think, read the room, guys. Another ticket of white males on your ticket. It's just not a vision and looking forward to what's happening in America.
Well, let's stick with the political slice of this, because Donald Trump is not particularly interested in governing. I think the piece he's interested in, right, is the one thing he didn't get out of Mike Pence. But one thing Donald Trump's instincts have sort of allowed him to do or forced him to do is to, without any shame or embarrassment, try to distance himself from Project 2025, which is one and the same. It's run by Trump's political people. It's staffed by Trump's policy people. It is the next Trump administration in waiting. And to echo J.D. Vance's point, this is what Project 2025 says about getting rid of civil servants. Quote, when it comes to ensuring that freedom can flourish, nothing is more important than deconstructing the centralized administrative state. Political appointees who are answerable to the president and have decision-making authority in the executive branch are key to the essential task. So, you know, it's a circle now, a closed circuit between what J.D. Vance believes what the Project 2025 platform says they're going to do, and, you know, deny all you want, there is no daylight between the Trump-Vance ticket and Project 2025.
They have to own it, right? I mean, I think they've been trying to move away, and you heard Trump dance around it. Doesn't know anything about it. They have to own it now. And I think what you're seeing currently, and what you will continue to see, is Democrats roll out attacks on this project. Because look, there are some diabolical, crazy things in there, right? It's a blueprint for undermining democracy, and as one of my friends said, it's really a blueprint for locking in minority white rule for decades on to come. So it's scary stuff in there. And again, if we're just looking at a campaign, again, call me old school, Nicolle, we're just looking at a campaign that's about issues and about where the majority of American people are on the issues. If you look at 2025 Project and you look at the rest of the issues, they are fundamentally mispositioned on the vast majority of issues that are important to middle America.
Let me read you what's in Project 2025 to Miller on marriage. Social science reports that to assess the objective outcomes for children raised in homes aside from a heterosexual intact marriage are clear. All other family forms involve higher levels of instability. The average length of same-sex marriages is half that of heterosexual marriages. Financial stress or poverty and poor behavioral, psychological, or educational outcomes. Supreme Court only ruled in 2015, I believe, that marriage equality is a law of the land. So I'm not sure where the math comes from there. But let me show you J.D. Vance on his view on women and marriage. And in this quote, and you'll hear it in his own words, this is about violent marriages.
And this is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that, like, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term.
It is so radical. Donald Trump himself has been married, I don't know how many times, several.
Three.
Yeah. So this is someone who thinks that being unhappy or subjected to violence isn't a rationale to, quote, shift spouses like they change their underwear.
Yeah, there's a lot here. A lot
so
bad.
Much, right? Take it back. As you said, we do have the 2 hours.
I do have to start with just far be it for me to question the research integrity of the people at the Heritage Foundation, but gay marriage has only been legal for like 11 years.
Right.
So I'm not sure how they could scientifically determine that they last shorter. That doesn't seem to work.
You have to take all the marriages that also started that year. And yeah, I don't know. I mean,
it doesn't seem like a long form research project at this point.
Yeah. Oops.
We're down on the water.
We're dropping things.
Yeah. Well, there's reason to start throwing stuff around when you listen to J.D. Vance talk about that. I think politically it's really bad. And I do think there's some political vulnerabilities, right? Just because, like, to what Cornell was talking about, like the gender gap is going to be huge already. Having a vice president out there that you didn't even play all the abortion clips. That's like, that says that it's unfortunate that if you get raped and you should have the baby anyway.
2 wrongs don't make a right.
Yeah, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Saying that women who are abused should be forced, I guess, to stay in marriage is the implication of that. I mean, these are just atrocious policies on the politics and on the morality, et cetera. And so I do think that creates a vulnerability. I think the most telling thing, though, tying it all into the Project 2025, is this choice is the first a staffing choice, really, that Donald Trump would make of a Trump 2.0. And we've been talking a lot about age in this campaign. Donald Trump is going to be an old guy if he's in there, and he doesn't really care about the details. Like, he wants to stay out of jail, and he wants to get back on Air Force One and go golfing. The real threat of Trump 2.0 is that he is going to hire the weirdest freaks and like the most ideologically extreme and conspiratorial people that are left, because all like the normal policy experts in Republican politics that wouldn't have written that Heritage Foundation paper, aren't involved anymore. And so those people that are self-selecting in are J.D. Vance and a bunch of people that talk and sound like J.D. Vance, but even more extreme that you don't know, right, that are anonymous people. And that is the core of what the Heritage Foundation is doing for Trump. They're saying we're going to find those people and we're going to put them in the administration. So even if you judge that Donald Trump doesn't care that much about gay marriage or abortion or any of these issues, the people that are implementing those policies at HHS and DHS are going to be radicals. And J.D. Vance is the first example of that. I
mean, and that's the policy. Vaughn, I have to come back to you at the human level. What does J.D. Vance think he's got going for him that Mike Pence didn't? Is there any self-awareness that the only reason Trump needs a new number 2 is because the last guy wouldn't carry out the final stages of the coup?
Nicolle, I don't know J.D. Vance well enough, but I did watch Mike Pence up close, and Mike Pence understood the assignment of the vice president to Donald Trump, and he executed, and I think was a terrific messenger for Donald Trump and the White House, and not only here domestically, but on the global stage. And up until January 6th, I think that there was very little friction between the two men. As for J.D. Vance, though, I will refer to a conversation I literally just had before going on air with you that I had with Matt Gaetz, the congressman out of Florida, who is a part of the wing of the GOP that is risen in prevalence inside of the halls of Congress and now making its way alongside Donald Trump as a running mate in J.D. Vance. And he told me that he would say the difference between Mike Pence and J.D. Vance is that J.D. Vance would be a powerful president of the Senate. And what does that mean? Essentially, J.D. Vance would be the one working as the congressional liaison with the White House to ensure that the exact legislation that Donald Trump and his team want executed on Capitol Hill is executed upon. And you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, you have Matt Gaetz, of course, Speaker Johnson. His position as Speaker of the House is in large part due to Donald Trump having his back here. And he said, compare that to 2017, when you have the likes of Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, who were leading the House and Senate leadership for Republicans. That wouldn't be the case in 2025. And Matt Gaetz making the case to me here that, that there's going to be no false promises about reforming the health care system from Republicans, but they will get it done. There's no false promises on taking action on immigration. They would get it done because he knows that he would have a vice president who would be working as the president of the Senate with a strong Republican leadership, hand-picked leadership in the House and Senate to work alongside and passing through exactly what the Trump MAGA agenda would be.
A lot of assumptions there. We'll take those apart on the other side of a quick break. No one's going anywhere. Still to come for us, President Joe Biden is out on the campaign trail today, set to address the NAACP National Convention in Las Vegas. We'll bring that to you when it begins later in the broadcast. Questions continue to be asked about how the Secret Service allowed an assassin to get as close to the ex-president as he was able to do on Saturday, just as officials are warning of the very real possibility of retaliatory violence being planned right now. We'll talk about all those elements of that story and much more when Deadline White House continues after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
You didn't live this strong, this long to get put on the shelf like a porcelain doll. If you have postmenopausal osteoporosis and are at high risk for fracture, you can build new bone with Evenity. Ask your doctor if you can do more than just slowing down bone loss with Evenity. Want stronger bones? Then build new bone. Evenity can help in just 12 months. Evenity is proven to reduce spine fracture risk by 73%.
Evenity can increase risk of heart attack, stroke, or death from a cardiovascular problem. Do not take Evenity if you have low blood calcium or are allergic to it. Serious allergic reactions and low blood calcium have occurred. Tell your doctor about jawbone problems, as they have been reported with Evenity, or about pain in your hip, groin, or thigh, as unusual thigh bone fractures have occurred.
Don't let a break put you on a shelf. Talk to your doctor about building new bone with Evenity.
Progressive makes it easy to save with a quick commercial auto quote online. So you can get back to your monster to-do list.
Really?
Get a quote at progressivecommercial.com.
Tommy Copper has an advanced weapon to fight pain and recover faster.
I do this because I occasionally do this. And I have to do this. My wife makes me do this.
Go to TommyCopper.com today.
That's 20 minutes of my day.
After Homoglow cleaned our place for $19, we fired our old housekeeper. Homoglow tackled everything from our kitchen to our bathroom, all our laundry. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19.
Dangerous ladders, gutter muck? Ugh, no wonder you hate cleaning your gutters. Good thing there's Leaf Filter. Our patented filter technology keeps leaves and debris out of your gutters forever. Guaranteed. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER to get started and get the permanent gutter solution that ends clogs for good.
They took the time to answer all of our questions. They really put us at ease.
End clogged gutters for good. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com today.
I need Q1 full index reports on my desk by noon, complete with comprehensive data analysis.
Are you getting any of this?
Charles,
Yeah, Otter's got the meeting notes. I'll ask it for action items in the channel. And Maria already asked for a budget reminder. Smart.
Mom by morning. Got it?
Got it, boss. Otter, you got this.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/hire and get started today.
Hi, I'm Kevin, and I've lost 152 pounds on Golo. I decided to give Golo a try. Taking the release supplement, I noticed a change within the first week. And each month, the weight just kept coming off. With Golo, you can keep the weight off.
Democracy is egalitarian, which means it's for everyone. It means it demands the best of us. It means it's not a spectator sport. But it also, I think, is a divinely inspired gift of our forefathers to show us that we can lead ourselves.
There's more. Cat ladies, roll it. Cat ladies.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
Offensive on so many levels. For once, 2 hours might not be long enough. It feels like 2 hours too long some days these days. But, I mean, what? And I cannot wait until the vice presidential debates. I really do hope that Kamala Harris challenges him to half a dozen. I mean, you cannot list how many people that one state... And I don't know what's worse, Tucker Carlson's nodding or the comments about cat ladies and childless women. I mean, these are debates and cultural divides that were bridged generations ago. And he's out there just serving them up like slop.
But the difference between J.D. Vance and Tucker Carlson is that we're talking about he could be a heartbeat away from being president.
Right.
Talking about cat ladies and...
Right. Of every cat lady in America.
Right. So, we need people to really realize, we're talking about him being the real vice president if Trump would succeed. For those like Tim Scott and them that are running around talking about that they're not racist, you just, in the last segment, Vance quoted Andrew Jackson, the most racist president in American history. He nominated Judge Roger Taney to the Supreme Court that did the Dred Scott decision that said blacks are property. But that's not bad enough. The only portrait that we know of Donald Trump hung in the Oval Office was of Andrew Jackson. So how many signals do they have to show? Throw women, blacks. You praise Andrew Jackson. You call women names that don't have children. I mean, I don't even understand what we are considering here unless we've all start drinking this Kool-Aid that Bannon says makes us, from Jesus to St. Paul. I still can't get over that one.
It's amazing. So, Cornell, write the ad. What does it look like?
It literally writes, Nicolle, you know the most effective advertising is not of actor voiceover. Yeah. It is...
We are still
in their language, straight up. That is a devastating ad. The gender gap will grow, not shrink.
Yeah, I mean, I almost want to hear it again, but it's play it again. Let me hear the cat lady and Tucker one more time. Can we do that? Okay. I got to hear this one more time.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
How did Pete Buttigieg get rolled in there? I'm so glad I played it again. Not childless.
I think it's
and not
a not subtle attack of gays, Nicolle. I don't know if you've caught that.
This is outrageous. And the reason I played it again is to underscore Cornell's point. I mean, I think that the only way out is through. The despair is about not any concerns about the Biden-Harris ticket's ability to govern, their ability to wage a vibrant and politically effective campaign. This guy is a gift.
A total gift. I'd love to see it. Full frontal, full bore attack from Biden and Harris on these people, because that clip is outrageous. It's totally wrong in the facts, obviously. Like, our country is run by childless cat ladies or corporate oligarchs. Like, if you looked at who the CEOs are in this country, it's not childless cat ladies. Kamala Harris has stepchildren. Pete Buttigieg now has adopted children. You know what's happening in that video? Tucker Carlson for the New York Times. This is how deep these people are in the crazy. Tucker Carlson was advocating to former President Trump that he stick with J.D. Vance, because if he had chosen a more normal candidate that believes that Ukraine has should be able to protect themselves, like Doug Burgum, then the deep state would come for him and maybe kill him, that the deep state would kill him. That's what Tucker Carlson thinks. That's why J.D. Vance is on this ticket, because they are so deep in their own conspiracy swamp. And so when you think about that, when you think about the contrast between a ticket that can look at the Trump-Vance ticket and say, these guys believe insane conspiracies. They don't think that women have a right to stay in marriage, or to leave marriages. They don't believe women have a right over their bodies. They don't believe that gays have a right to be married. They think that gays are the same as childless cat lady women, I guess, too. You know, we can just insult them. Like, they want to have camps in the largest mass deportation in history. They want to overthrow the democracy. Like, the contrasts, the cup overfloweth of contrasts.
Yeah.
So let's see them.
You know, Vaughn, Trump's political instincts, if we call them that, have been toward shaving the edges off for the purpose of disguising the extreme nature of his abortion position, of his marriage, same-sex marriage position. J.D. Vance obliterates all of that. I didn't think it was going to work, but to the degree that they sought to sort of hide the tamales in the Republican platform, J.D. Vance rips the curtain right off.
Honestly, Nicolle, sorry, do you mind asking the first part of that question again? I missed the top part of your question.
Some of the reporting ahead of the convention was around the RNC platform, where Trump's side sought to shave the edges off the extreme positions on abortion that the abortion activists wanted in there. There's still personhood in there, which is about as extreme as it gets, which throws IVF off the table and criminalizes birth control. But they sought to do some political jujitsu rhetorically. They also sought to shave some of the edges off of the harsh, intolerant language around marriage equality. J.D. Vance annihilates both of those political. I thought they were shallow and would ultimately be ineffective. But to the degree that that was the political effort the Trump campaign was involved in, J.D. Vance rips the curtain back on that and reveals it all as BS.
And I think that the question coming out of that is, from a political campaign level with 3.5 months left, do the Biden campaign, do they use J.D. Vance as a point of drawing that wedge and drawing that contrast and making it clear that the idea of what the GOP platform may be may run counter to the exact policies of their own ticket and the advocacy of it? And that's the question. How much do you use and try to introduce J.D. Vance to the public at large as somebody half the age of Donald Trump, who was going to be not only the president of the Senate, but also have the direct ear of Donald Trump as well as his family? I think it's a prudent question to be asking, and I think that ultimately it's going to be the Biden campaign and the extent to which they try to use J.D. Vance as a wedge for the ticket outside of Donald Trump himself.
Now, if he is who he's presented himself as, then this breaking news should come as a really welcome surprise. And we've just learned that Vice President Kamala Harris, who he lumps in as a, quote, childless cat lady, end quote, has challenged J.D. Trump is America's Hitler Vance to a televised debate on August 13th. Von Hilliard, what do you think?
I think that this is a matchup that Kamala Harris, I think, will be quite comfortable in, right? I covered her presidential campaign when she was running for the Democratic ticket. And at the time, there was the reality that she was running against Elizabeth Warren, longtime Senator Bernie Sanders, right? Joe Biden, who had been in the Senate for decades. She herself was quite new to the U.S. Senate. But where you saw her after that Atlanta debate go on the television airwaves and defend Joe Biden, but also defend the Democratic principles and campaign position, that is where she is, I think, been the most effective in terms of where she has been able to contrast draw contrast. And I think that J.D. Vance is somebody who, again, I don't think that he is a lightweight when it comes to policy or his understanding of where he has led himself on this political journey from being an ever-Trumper in 2016 to effectively being a professional and political colleague of Don Jr. and personal friend to being the running mate. And so I think that that is going to be, unlike the sort of the bravado you could see from a Trump-Biden matchup on the debate stage, one that is much more focused on specifics about what the two different types of administrations could look like in 2025, depending on which ticket could win.
Von Hilliard, thank you so much for your reporting and for jumping on that breaking news without batting an eyelid. Thank you very much, my friend. Come back to us if you hear of anything else breaking there where you are. For our part, everyone else sticks around. And when we come back, President Joe Biden set to make his case to a vital part of his coalition today, defending his record out on the campaign trail. Again, I believe this is his first event since Saturday night's shooting in Pennsylvania. Much more to come. Quick break for us. We'll all be right back.
Known as a loving parent. Known for lessons that matter. Known for being a free spirit. No one wants to be known for cancer, but a treatment can be. Keytruda is known to treat cancer. FDA approved for 17 types of cancer. One of those cancers is advanced non-squamous, non-small cell lung cancer, where Keytruda is approved to be used with certain chemotherapies as your first treatment if you do not have an abnormal EGFR or ALK gene.
Keytruda can cause your immune system to attack healthy parts of your body during or after treatment. This may be severe and lead to death. See your doctor right away if you have cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, diarrhea, severe stomach pain, severe nausea or vomiting, headache, light sensitivity, eye problems, irregular heartbeat, extreme tiredness, constipation, dizziness or fainting, changes in appetite, thirst or urine, confusion, memory problems, muscle pain or weakness, fever, rash, itching or flushing. There may be other side effects. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions, including immune system problems. If you've had or plan to have an organ, tissue, or stem cell transplant, received chest radiation, or have a nervous system problem.
Depending on the type of cancer, Keytruda may be used alone or in combination with other treatments, and is also being studied in hundreds of clinical trials exploring ways to treat even more types of cancer. It's true. Keytruda from Merck. See all the types of cancer Keytruda is known for at Keytruda.com and ask your doctor if Keytruda could be right for you.
At Care.com, it's easy to get a break, even if you're not on summer vacation. Join millions of families who've trusted us and find care in your area for kids, seniors, pets, and homes. All from background-checked caregivers, rated and reviewed by people like you. That's hours and hours of goofing around. Hundreds of lovely afternoons. Mile after mile of WALKs and acres of expertly cleaned floors. Go to Care.com now to find the care you need this summer.
I have a structured settlement and I... Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
I have an annuity, but I need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash.
After Homoglow cleaned our place for $19, we fired our old housekeeper. Homoglow tackled everything from our kitchen to our bathroom, all our laundry. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19.
I was always skeptical of credit cards, but I also know it's the best way to build your credit. As an entrepreneur, that's essential. So I got the Chime Credit Builder card. There's no annual fee, no interest, and no credit check. My score's gone up over 100 points. Check it out at chime.com.
With the Freestyle Libre 3 system, know your glucose levels. No finger sticks needed. All with the world's smallest and thinnest sensor. Manage your diabetes with more confidence and lower your A1C. Try it for free at freestylelibre.us.
With Blue Diamond Cook on Diamonds for this unbelievable price. Diamond-infused technology creates the hardest non-stick coating. It's 5 times harder. Metal utensils safe. Big messes wipe clean. Get Blue Diamond. Unbelievable performance. Unbelievable price.
We are expecting remarks to begin from President Joe Biden in Las Vegas shortly. He's speaking before the NAACP's National Convention. It will mark a rather unofficial return to the campaign trail moment for the president, his first political speech since his campaign voluntarily suspended their political activities in the immediate aftermath of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. President Biden, of course, has delivered 3 addresses to the nation since that shooting. Now, in front of our nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization, we can expect President President Joe Biden to share some of his administration's accomplishments, like the 2.6 million jobs that have been created for African Americans, the expansion of Pell Grants, increased access to housing and health care. Let's bring into our conversation Democratic Congressman Daniel Goldman of New York, Cornell, Rev, and Tim are back as well. Congressman, your thoughts on the president's addressed the nation 3 times over 2 days, moments after the attempt on former President Trump's life, and then an Oval Office address about 24 hours later. This is a sort of pivot back to the multitasking that any incumbent president has to do when they're running for re-election as president. Stopping the campaign wasn't something anyone made him do. It was an act of decorum and dignity and reverence for the office and its traditions. And I wonder what you think of sort of how he's approached the last 72 hours, which are nothing short of unprecedented and extraordinary.
I think you see the real Joe Biden over the last 72 hours, a public servant to the core, a statesman, someone who, when in the Senate, always worked in a bipartisan way, and even as president has maintained a desire to work in a bipartisan way, even though the Republican Party has moved so far away from that. And he is exactly who we need in this moment of sheer instability, inflammatory rhetoric, and certainly uncertainty for all of us elected officials. And he is the right person who can unify us, who can bring the temperature down, and whose lead we can follow to get to the right place.
What is your understanding, and are you... Have you been involved in any briefings that lead you to understand better than the public any of the events of Saturday night?
No, and I know we will have a hearing in the Oversight Committee on the security issues next week, and I just got notice of another hearing in the Homeland Security Committee on that as well. But it is very odd that we know so little about the shooter at this point. And effectively what we know is that he, as a 20-year-old male, was registered Republican. His classmates in high school say that he was conservative. Others have said there was Trump paraphernalia on his front lawn, something that uniformly political violence Democrats have condemned. And some of us have misspoken in the past, and I am one of those, and I made it very clear when I used inflammatory rhetoric that I did not mean it, that what I meant was that he needed to be defeated at the ballot box. And that's certainly what Joe Biden is always talking about. But we have to make sure that our Republican colleagues as well, who jumped on the inflammatory rhetoric immediately after the shooting, take the temperature down and recognize that none of this is good for anyone.
J.D. Vance was one of the people who engaged in that inflammatory rhetoric in the immediate aftermath of the tragic attempt on Donald Trump's life by blaming President Joe Biden by name and the media for describing the contest in November as an existential one and describing Trump and what he's for as an authoritarian leader, which the facts certainly bear out. And then Trump picked him. What do you think that says?
Well, look, I think it says that Donald Trump has completely taken control of the Republican Party. J.D. Vance is like a baby of QAnon and MAGA put together. He is so far out there. He has
tied my brain in a knot
he
there.
has vowed to. I mean, it's so extreme. It's, you know, like as if Marjorie Taylor and Donald Trump got together and hatched something, and that's J.D. Vance. It's insane, some of his views, his extremism on abortion, no exception for rape or incest. He has said he would not have certified the last election and will not guarantee that he will certify this election. He has overtly supported Vladimir Putin and Russia in their in his effort to take over for the democratic country of Ukraine. And in every way, he is both a neophyte and a novice who has flip-flopped within the last several years after being a never-Trumper and calling him the potential next American Hitler, to now selling his soul so that he can rise the ranks. And Donald Trump loves that. Donald Trump wants a loyalist as much as possible. And it is, I think, very scary to see that this is who Donald Trump would pick when there are others who have governing experience, who have passed bills in the Senate, who have led committees that he could have chosen. And the fact that he chose someone like J.D. Vance is really quite shocking and a little bit scary, but it does escalate the stakes in November. And that's where the Republicans get it wrong. Yes, there's an existential threat to our democracy. That does not call for violence. That calls for people to go to the ballot box in November. And that is what we all need to do to make sure that we preserve and protect our democracy from a wannabe authoritarian dictator, Donald Trump, and his Project 2025, which will completely undo our democracy.
Congressman Coleman, thank you very much for taking some time to talk to us on this rather extraordinary week of news. We're grateful.
Thank you.
I'm not going to get that image of we were talking about childless people, and then we had the baby. And the baby is, I don't know if it was the mother or the father that was QAnon, or but it is extraordinary. What I find to be one of the most extraordinary elements of the J.D. Vance story is that I have hosted this show for 8 years, and I have had lots of conversations with Trump critics. Not one of them has ever called him America's Hitler. Not one of them has ever called him cultural heroin. It's the rhetorically brutal descriptions from J.D. Vance of Donald Trump that Trump was somehow able to get over. That seems so un-Trump.
It seems so unlike Trump, and it also gives you the character of an almost reckless opportunist in J.D. Vance. How do you go from calling someone America's Hitler and other names that you mentioned, and then all of a sudden you become a loyal disciple and not a vice presidential candidate? And what happened?
What did you promise to do for him to forgive you?
What did you promise to do? And he had to promise something, because Donald Trump is not a forgiving kind of guy.
Correct.
I mean,
he's still mad at Deborah Messing about something.
He's angry at journalists that wrote something bad about him 20 years ago. Yeah, he doesn't forget that stuff. Right. So what would make him forgive this guy? And that should frighten every American. And the fact the guy would want to ask for forgiveness. So either you were lying when you called him America's Hitler and didn't believe it, or you're lying now.
Yeah. Up next for us, there is brand new tape of Donald Trump, the ex-president, peddling completely baseless conspiracy theories about vaccines. We'll show it to you next.
As Democrats weigh President Joe Biden's candidacy, Republicans will gather in Milwaukee to formally nominate Donald Trump as their presidential nominee.
There is an entire blueprint for the transition to a Trump presidency.
Stay with MSNBC for insights and analysis, plus reporting on the ground from the convention hall.
This is part and parcel of what is going to be a very interesting 4 days.
The Republican National Convention. Special coverage continues this week on MSNBC.
This is our future, Ma. GoDaddy Aero creates a logo, website, even social posts in minutes.
How?
AI.
AI like it. Who wants to come see the future?
Get your business online in minutes with GoDaddy Aero.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients, prevent children from dropping out of school, support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org today.
These bills are crazy.
She has no idea she's sitting on a gold mine.
Well, she doesn't know that if she owns a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, she can sell all or part of it to Coventry for cash, even a term policy.
Even a term policy?
Even a term policy!
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-738-1300 or visit coventrydirect.com.
Take a pea-sized amount. Apply it like a lotion. Pits, under boob, thigh folds, butt cracks, feet. This water-based cream, I'm telling you, it's invisible on the skin. It works like a dream. Why didn't someone think of this sooner?
In a video leaked by the son of independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Donald Trump is heard espousing conspiracy theories about vaccines to the candidate whose campaign has denied, in part, being part of anti-vax conspiracies. It's video of a call that took place on Sunday, just one day after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Listen.
And, I said, doctors, you find. Remember I said I want to do small doses. Small doses. When you feed a baby, Bobby, a vaccination that is like 38 different
You've really jumped the shark. The Biden-Harris campaign responding to that video in a statement this way, saying, quote, Americans across the political spectrum resoundingly support President Joe Biden's historic record and ongoing work to expand access to high-quality, affordable health care and lower prescription drug costs. But Trump and his anti-vax bud, Bobby, are spreading dangerous conspiracy theories that threaten the life-saving care that tens of millions of people depend on. We're back with Cornell, Reb, and Tim. Cornell, if you sort of can push aside the weirdness of this, what it is Trump talking to one of the world's most prominent anti-vaxxers and aligning himself with him, not on the COVID vaccine, but on the vaccines that newborn babies get. And I don't know, I have one, and there are no horse-sized pills or anything that you give a baby. I don't know what he's talking about there, but it is a shared ideology that is beyond extreme. Extreme speaks to an ideological spectrum. It's fringe, it's radical, and it's baseless.
Yeah. Well, Nicolle, it's hard to push aside the weirdness of it all, because I think the weirdness of it all is the actual thing, right?
Very latest on the new warnings about more political violence that is feared in response to Saturday's assassination attempt on Donald Trump. A quick break. We'll be right back.
Stay up to date on the biggest issues of the day with the MSNBC Daily newsletter. Each morning, you'll get analysis by experts you trust, video highlights from your favorite shows.
2024 is now truly the most important election in the history of our country.
Previews of our podcasts and documentaries, plus written perspectives from the newsmakers themselves, all sent directly to your inbox each morning. Get the best of MSNBC all in one place. Sign up for MSNBC Daily at msnbc.com.
When I was working in the Senate, I didn't realize that it's the perfect training for the job that I have now. Covering government, covering politics, the complexity of it all. You learn how to explain that and how to live through that when you work in this building. Mastering the detail is crucial to being able to present anything that happens in Senate buildings like this or any of the other news centers that we have to focus on every day.
This is an event that should have never happened.
Who is most responsible for this happening?
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
Hi again, everybody. It's 5 o'clock in New York. The Secret Service is under growing scrutiny as questions are still swirling about how the gunman on Saturday was able to get within reach of being able to shoot a former president. A spokesperson telling NBC News this, quote, the Secret Service worked with local law enforcement to maintain event security, including sniper teams poised on rooftops to identify and eliminate threats. But no officers were posted on the building used by the would-be assassin outside the event's security perimeter, but only about 148 yards from the stage, within range of a semi-automatic rifle, like the one the gunman carried. An investigation by the FBI is underway. Specialists are looking through the shooter's phone and electronic devices, as well as continuing to conduct interviews with witnesses and members